Hi. Why don't you tell these wonderful people at Rutgers who you are?
Hi, Rutgers. My name is Eliza Simpson, and I am the founder and executive director of Motherline Story Project, Inc., the producers of the Motherline Story Project.
That's right. And in the video that these guys watched about the Motherline Story Project, we heard about how motherhood unites all women, that everyone has a mother. So has the Motherline Story Project told stories of women who have never known their mothers or their maternal ancestors? And how do you tackle that?
That's a really good question. We have, and it's been tackled in unique ways. So every storyteller's got their own approach. In one of our first workshops, we had a storyteller who was adopted, but who'd been adopted through an open adoption, and so she told both sides. She wrote stories from the point of view of her maternal mother's line and from her mother's line. And as you can imagine, they were very unique, very specific, but both hers. And we recently had another storyteller who wrote from the point of view of a mother, her biological mother, that she's never met. She knows very, very little about. But she took those couple specific details that she had, pretty much just her mother's age and country, and created a whole narrative around it, a whole story, and a whole conversation that she thinks this woman might have had with the baby bump. It was really beautiful, simple, and so exposing, and in the way that most of these stories are, it says a lot more about the storyteller than about the subject, which is very compelling to watch and listen to.
Great. Now, in working with many women who don't speak the same language, the same spoken language as you do, do you think language is really needed for understanding, or do you think it deserves the extreme importance we have assigned to it?
No, that's a good question, and it's a complex one, right? In working with actresses, especially the cast in Cairo, about half the cast spoke English, and we found ways to communicate. But I've never been in a room with people so aware of when they were being understood. We immediately found this kind of natural rhythm. People would wait to make sure that everyone in the room had been given the information, that the translator had time to speak. And then we found other ways to communicate. I have text message threads that are all emojis, because sometimes you can't wait for the translator to get involved, and running man, question mark, time, drama face. And their response is like, trains, sad face, angry face. And you're like, oh, okay, great. Why are you running late for rehearsal? Oh, the trains are running. Great, cool. Hearts, 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 hearts. A lot of hearts. There's a lot of love in that cast.
So the goal is communication.
Right. The goal is communication, and there are many languages and many ways to do that. But the second part of that question being, does language merit the importance we give it? Absolutely. Especially coming from an oral storytelling tradition, the language, the choice of words, that's the how. The aim is communication, but the words are the how, and that's everything. So yeah, language is incredibly important. That's my.
Do you think that telling these stories is enough?
Well, damn, Rutgers.
So how else can we keep the conversation going so these voices don't once again become forgotten or fall to the side? What can we do?
That's a really good, insightful question, Rutgers. So the aim of the Motherline Story Project is to amplify. It is to be a platform for these artists to tell these stories. And our goal is always to give them more airtime, to make them more appealing and able to engage with. So our aim is the workshops, which creates and fosters the stories, the productions, which showcases them, and then all of our work through social media and networking is to create more interest and more audience members for these stories. We think that the work of the stories is creating empathy, and our work as a project is creating audience members.
And usually people tend to call their moms after shows, right?
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many people, that's the most immediate, direct way, right? Through sharing the stories, immediately audience members think, what are the stories of my mother line? I should go home and call my mom. And I can't tell you how many people have come up to us after shows and said, I need to go find out, or I'm almost embarrassed that I've never asked. So that's the right away, that's the immediate. But they can continue that excitement, that exploration, that journey. This is for everyone. And I forgot what I was saying, and that's okay.
Have you experienced any challenges with this project?
Yep. There are always going to be challenges. They're always going to be specific to the place and to the performer and to the audience. So if I have any words of wisdom to people looking to create this kind of a show, or even just to create their own stuff in general, it is to reach out and remember you don't have to do this alone. And to listen. Who is your audience? Who is your cast? Who are you? Remember your relationship to people, and then ask for help. Lean into that relationship with people. Cairo was a very specific and brand new experience across the board, but the only reason it came together, the only reason that we were able to put up a show in 2 weeks with 13 actresses we'd never worked with before in a language that we didn't speak, was because we called on the things that we had in common. We called on that community. And so because we were all female storytellers trying to put on the same show, we could have that community, we had that in common, and we helped each other towards the end.
And what lessons can you share with female artists, young and old, trying to break the barrier of cultural, racial, or religious collaboration?
That is a layered question. And I think that my advice remains the same. You don't have to do it alone, and you should reach out to your community. I think that the biggest enemy of art and creation is fear. Because when we're afraid, we're isolated, and we don't trust each other, we don't have faith in each other, and we don't communicate. So much is possible if you love the work, you're willing to do the work, and you recognize that you don't have to do it alone.
Why only women?
'Cause
they need a voice.
No, that's why only women is a solid question and an important question, and one that we got a lot, especially in Cairo. Well, everywhere, but especially in Cairo, and not with any sort of animosity, maybe with a little bit of jealousy. Like, why only women? To which the answer is, this project is for everyone. We want people to see the show, to be inspired, to go home and call their mothers, to explore the stories of their mother lines. The shows, the platforms are for women because as a project, we're looking for specificity. We want to put something very specific in front of our audience members because the more specific we are, the more their imagination is allowed to run wild. So we create a tight lens and we show exclusively this matriarchal line as explored by the matrons in the most current position. That's a complicated way to say that. I feel like I could say that better.
Yeah.
The Motherline Story Project came out of this idea, a pagan concept, that believes that any woman, whether or not she has children, has the capacity to have children. And so for the 9 months that she is within her mother, she is a womb within a womb, or a vessel within a vessel. And so she catches things. And that connection through mothers is not superior, but is very open, is very available. And so things can be passed along it. Instinct, trauma, power, pain, all of these things that get carried down the mother line. And that's where we're coming from in our exploration. However, the Motherline Story Project is not a spiritual exploration, but a theatrical one. And so we are recognizing the womb space as an energetic construct. So anyone who identifies as female or a woman is welcome to take part in this platform. This is your space for your stories. So we encourage you to join us. If you do not identify as a woman or female, you still got a mother. You still got a mother line. You're just at the end of it. Go explore those stories, and you should. But again, we are focusing our lens so that we can present something really special and specific to our audience.
So you said that this is a pagan tradition, that's how that started. But what pushed you to follow the impulse to start the project in the first place?
The birth of the Motherline Story Project came from my grandmother moving in with my mother. And all of a sudden, my entire motherline was under one roof. And the dynamics between women was just fascinating to me. This, specifically my grandmother, who was in later stages of dementia, she was very different than I'd ever known her. In her life, she was very composed and kind of emotionally distant. All of a sudden, she had no concept of future or past or who she was or who we were, and she was sweet and affectionate and open with her feelings, and she made jokes. She made jokes when she pooped her pants. Like, this was, who was this? And that was the moment for me of, who are you? Or who were you before life made you the person that I met? I'd never gotten to get inside my grandmother's head, and that was the first moment for me. I wish I could go back to those moments in her life, figure out what shaped her into the person that I got to know. And because of this pagan concept that I was aware of, I thought of the motherline, and I thought of if I could just reach back along that open channel, then I could find those stories. And originally I thought, oh, well, I'll do a one-woman show, monologues as me and my mother and my grandmother, and I thought, well, that sounds indulgent, so let's not do that. But in one of the, I think, most lightning bolt good ideas that I've ever experienced, I thought, this must be true for everyone. And so I reached out, I asked for help, I opened it up, I created a really specific writing structure. Because again, the more specific your structure, the more free reign the imagination. And we started with workshop nights, just inviting our community of artists. And the results were so varied and so unique and so fabulous, just like fire, just people I'd known for years. I'd seen their work and I thought they were talented. It was always everyone's best work. And I thought, as theatrical conceits go, something that brings the best work out of every artist, that's something that should keep going.
Is this project just for performers?
No. This project is for everyone. This project is a platform for the stories. And everyone who comes to this project, who brings their voice, becomes a storyteller. This is a project for storytellers.
And you were saying that you have a specific writing structure. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, so the writing structure is always around 2 minutes long, needs to be in first person, needs to be in real time, needs to be during this person's lifetime, so no monologues from the beyond, and needs to have as much real historical detail as possible. As lovely as it would be to rewrite history, that's not what we're doing. We are taking as much as real as possible, and then when there are gaps, you fill that in with your instinct. Because if this is your story, your heritage, your right, your instinct is going to be closer to the truth than anyone else's. No one else could write this story as authentically as you can.
What are some past prompts that you've used?
We've had some good ones.
Yeah.
So the structure is always the same, but every time we have a workshop night, the prompt is different. So our very first prompt was ritual. You have to write a motherline story in the structure I described, but every story had to contain or make reference to a ritual, either secular or non-secular. We had secrets. Every story had to contain or make reference to a secret, positive or negative, told or untold. You're getting the vibe here, right? So the options are limitless. We've had nights that were all about the road not taken, containing or making reference to a moment in time when you made a decision, and that a why in the road, and you went either this way or this way. Old wives' tales, a reference or an actual old wives' tale contained in the story. We just keep coming across these universal threads, these deeper chords of understanding and truth, and when we find them, it's really through dumb luck and just listening, and every time we do a workshop, I'm more affirmed in this kind of work. This work creates so much empathy, and it really highlights and showcases the artist that was already there, and it lets them stand in the full power of who they are as an individual, because they're claiming every experience and every story that went into them standing here right now speaking.
But the performers that you're seeing, they're speaking in the voice of their mother, their grandmother, their great-grandmother, right? So you're really seeing this story from the past.
Yes, it's a snapshot of a moment in time, but it's impossible to forget that the person speaking to you, who's physically in the room with you, is there as a result of that story, of that experience. If you find yourself thinking, how does the story end? You just come back to yourself and realize, oh, it ends with that person in front of me. Cool.
What has been your greatest joy since birthing the Motherline Story Project?
There have been so many joys since birthing the Motherline Story Project. I'm gonna say, when we were in Egypt, there was a really specific moment where one of the higher-ups from the American Embassy, a very kind of serious, stately woman who looked like she should be playing a general on House of Cards. She'd come to see the show, and you could tell she was there because it was her job, but she was not a theatrical person. And after the show, she came over and said, my Arabic is not what it should be for me to fully appreciate the stories that I saw. But I felt like there were times that I didn't need the language, that I could tell what was being said, and there was one really specific moment, and she talked about her very favorite moment in the show where she thought to herself, oh, I guess that's universal. And then she looked to me and said, I was very moved. And that's what you always want. That's what theater is capable of doing. And I was very moved.
What do you hope for the future of Motherline?
I would like to take Motherline everywhere. I would like for it to go into every school. I would like for it to visit every country. I think it's so refillable and it's so necessary. And wherever it goes, it's so specific to the place and yet so available to any audience. That was one of the things that made my heart explode when we were in Egypt, is that people kept coming up and saying, this is a real Egyptian show. That they took ownership of it. This is a real Egyptian show. And
would you maybe want to bring it to Rutgers?
Are you asking?
Yes.
I would love to bring it to Rutgers. I think Rutgers would tell an incredible Motherline story. I think the stories that are just waiting to be mined in that particular enclave are pretty special. And I think Rutgers is pretty cool, but Biased. Thank you so much for your questions. It's been a real pleasure. And if you have more, please email them to us. And you can always find out more information on our website, motherlinestoryproject.com. And we look forward to keeping this dialogue going. I know that questions breed more questions, and we are here for them. So thank you.